this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do the project recipe for Nordic Winter. Nordic Winter is a collection that was released at the beginning of December, kind of the winter. It's the CM Wintry kind of collection that came out. But it's got some notes of kind of Christmas, but not really Christmas. I don't know. I really like it, but it's definitely not a pigeonhole type collection where you could only use it for one thing. So you could use it for Christmas, you could use it for your outdoor winter activities, you could use it for time spent out in the woods if you have a cabin or anything like that. It's very pretty, and I think you're gonna love it. So let me show you. We're going to put together the layout today, and then I'm going to show you another version of the layout that I put together recently, and then there's also the sample layout that was created to go along with the collection. So you'll have 3 different versions you can check out and see which one you like best, and I'm sure there are other versions out there, but anyway, these will be the 3 that I'm going to share with you today. Let's check out my workspace and get started. All right, so this is the project recipe for Nordic Winter, and you can see that it's actually a fairly simple design, but there are a couple of things about it that are not tricky necessarily, but they just will take a little bit of patience for you to put together. Pardon me, I've been fighting a cough, so. You're only going to need 2 pieces of designer paper as far as what you're going to cut for this design, but you'll need also 2 pieces of designer paper for your bases on this. So you could always use cardstock, you could always just use your naked page. It just depends on what you want to do. I am going to build on designer paper today, because I don't know exactly where I will use this in my album just yet. So it allows me some flexibility to go ahead and build it on an individual piece of paper, and that way I can adhere it whenever I get that far. You are going to need a mountain punch. It really doesn't matter which mountain punch you use. This is designed to go with the snow-capped mountain punch that just came out. But you could use the Majestic Mountains punch. You could use the Alpine Mountains punch. If you have all 3 of them, you can use all 3 of them, or you can use any combination thereof. It just depends on what you like best. If there's one of these 3 that speaks to you more than the other because it looks like the mountain's near you, by all means, use that one. It really is not critical. The version of this that I did last night that I'll show you, in fact, I could show it to you right now. That way you could get an idea before you put it together. This is the version that I did last night. And I used all 3 of them. I used the snow-capped mountains for the piece that was long that goes in front. And then on one of the other pieces we punch, I used the Alpine Mountains, and on the other one I used the Majestic Mountains. So it just depends on the look that you want to get from your punch, which one you want. All right, so I'll show this to you again when we get to the end of this video, but for the time being, let's just go ahead and focus on using our snow-capped mountains, since that is the current punch that's available. And if you have the other ones, like I said, you can mix and match to your heart's content. All right, so this is Nordic Winter. This is a beautiful combination of blues and greens and lots of wooded kind of additions. So you can see based on this design here and the design on this paper right here, it does definitely have kind of a Nordic feel to it, which is nice, but not necessarily Christmassy. And most of the embellishments, there are a whole lot more than this. I just pulled out a few. Most of the embellishments do not even point to Christmas. They just sort of give a small nod, like there's this star right here. There are these bells. There are some more bells here. There's this mistletoe. There are some stockings, a couple of them, but really not a lot that is Christmas related. So you can definitely use this this whole collection for other than Christmas, or you can relate it to Christmas. It is completely up to you how you choose to use it. I have selected these two more solid kind of tone-on-tone green pieces to be my base sheets for this two-page layout. They have this sort of Christmassy, but not exactly, but it has a deer and other Nordic kind of themed items on the back. And but we're going to use this side because I needed a kind of a neutral for a base. So I'm just setting those to the side. We're going to cut these pieces on the cutting guide with these two pieces of designer paper, and this is the sort of floral main flower print with more of a quilted design on the back, and then this little more geometric kind of print that's a little darker and a more tone-on-tone blue on the back. So we're going to use these as our main sheets. You need to decide which one you want to frame your photos, because you're going to have a piece that is on both sides of your layout that is framing your photos. Then you're going to have another piece that mats two photos but goes all the way across the base. I don't want this one to go all the way across the base because I'm going to end up using these 12-inch border stickers, because I've used these and I've used one of this one down here. So these are the only ones I have left that I have two of. So I'm going to use these border stickers. That means I don't want to use this piece as my base here, I'm sorry, I don't want to use this piece as my piece that will go under the border sticker down here. So that means I will use this as my main sheet here, or I will use the back. I think I'm going to opt to go ahead and use this under my photos, because then it will pick up the little bit of the border that will be down here. So this is going to be my designer paper number 1, and that makes that decision really easy for me. I'm going to grab my trimmer and pull my arm out because we're going to need that. Excuse me. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this 12-inch by 1 3/4 inch piece at the bottom right here, because you'll notice you can't cut this vertical piece without this piece being already missing. So we're going to cut that 1 3/4 inch piece. I'm going to turn this because I want my design to be vertically this way. So I'm going to trim it horizontal, trim off the 1 3/4 horizontal piece this way. Okay, so that piece is done. Then this piece we're going to turn back around so that now it is 10 and 1/4. It's 10 and 1/4, and it'll be 7 inches and 5 inches. So I'm going to move it over here to the 7-inch mark, make it flush against the top shoulder of my trimmer, and cut that at 7 inches. That gives me a 7-inch piece and a 5-inch piece. All right. So I'm going to set that aside. Then I'm going to grab my other piece of paper. This one you can flip around, so you can just go ahead and cut your pieces. Basically, you just need to decide, if you're using a directional piece of paper, which direction you want to be horizontal, because you're going to have these 3-inch pieces that you're going to cut first are going to go horizontally across the base of each of the pages of the 2-page layout. So I need to decide, do I want that to look like this with a bunch of kind of white diamonds going up and down, or do I want them to go horizontally across my page. I think I want them to go horizontally across my page, so that means my cuts need to go from left to right according to the way my paper is oriented right now. So I'm going to turn it, that way I can go across my page this way. I'm going to cut 2 3 by 12 pieces. So there's my first one. Then I'm going to cut one more 3 by 12 piece. Then I'm going to cut a 2-inch piece, so 2 by 12. 2 by 12. Okay. And then I should be left with 4 inches. Yep, 4 inches. Maybe just a hair over, but that's fine. And I'm going to cut that at 6 and then again at 4 inches. So we have 2 mats we're going to make. One at 6 inches and the other is going to be a 4 by 4 square. All right, so those are going to sit up here, my mats. And then this piece is just extra you can use on another layout somewhere along the line. All right, now we're done with cutting. We are not done with punching, however. We do need to do some punching. So I'm going to grab my snow-capped mountain punch, and we are going to punch several pieces. Now you'll notice it says cut, then punch, cut, then punch, cut, then punch, cut, then punch. Okay, so we are going to first go ahead and cut, I'm sorry, we've already cut these. We are going to go ahead and punch these pieces. So here's my 2-inch piece from this paper. Here are my 2 3-inch pieces from this paper. And I need my other 2-inch piece from this paper from right here. We're going to punch one edge of all of these pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot that over there. And if you haven't seen the Creative Memories punches, just a quick note, there are these marks on the front. Those are to help you get started in the right place. So depending on if you're feeding your paper left to right or right to left will determine which one of these you're going to start on. I'm going to start with one of my 3-inch pieces. And for some reason I always feel more comfortable feeding my paper to the left. So I'm going to line up the edge of my paper with this left mark on the front. There you can see it a little bit better. And then push it all the way to the back against the shoulder at the back of my punch back here. And I'm going to punch, and then I'm going to feed it through until my design that I have just punched matches the blue design on the wing of my punch. Can you see how it covers it exactly? So I'm going to make sure it's pushed to the back to the shoulder here, and I'm holding it with my finger. I'm going to punch, slide, and punch and slide, and punch and slide, and punch and slide. And we're going to just keep punching and sliding until we get all of the 12 inches punched. Generally, you have to punch it about 5 times. Okay, so there is one. And see how I have this little teeny bit at the end? Occasionally that happens. You can just sort of nip it off, and then you are good. So I'm just going to go ahead and punch this other 3-inch border the same way. It's going to turn out a little bit different though, because I have flipped it over so that you can see the dark blue side of the paper this time. So my mountains are going to be headed the opposite direction, but that's okay because variation is good when it comes to these. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay, so here's this one. Now, the 2-inch pieces that we need to do are going to require a Post-it note. And this is the Post-it note trick to be able to utilize shorter pieces of paper in your border maker system or in your border punch. All right, so if I was to put one of these pieces, that looks too big. Why is that too big? That should still be 2 inches. What did I do wrong? That is 2 inches. This one is 1 1/4. Okay. Well, that's weird. But that's right. It is 1 3/4 and 2 inches. For some reason, I thought they were the same before. Anyway, anything less than about 3 inches tall, and you're not going to be able to see it once you try to put it into your punch. So you have a hard time lining it up. So I just grab a sticky note and I put it right here on the edge of my paper, and I make it as straight as possible, right? So that I can tell where the edge of my paper is when I put it in my punch. And then that helps me line it up and get it started correctly. Just like that. If you put your Post-it note too far onto your paper, then you punch your Post-it note, which is really not a big deal because you can just peel it right off. But if you don't want to punch your Post-it note, just be careful not to put your Post-it note too low. And then they peel right off, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one because this one is also very narrow. Too narrow to be able to see in the punch, so we're going to start it that way. And now, just because you can see this design as I'm punching it this way does not mean that that's how it's going to end up in my final arrangement of my design, because we're going to flip it around and decide which way we like it best in just a second here. Okay, so there's my punched pieces. I'm going to get rid of my confetti. Put my punch to the side here. All right, so now we have a little bit of additional cutting. You can see on the cutting guide these dotted lines that are right here. And over on this one, on the peach designer paper number 1, that dotted line corresponds with this cutting line above it, which is at 5 inches. So we're going to cut both of them the same. Both of them are at 5 inches. I know it's not marked on the blue sheet. It's really not marked on the peach sheet either. But we are going to go ahead and cut the smaller, shorter borders, the ones we had to use the Post-it notes for. We're going to cut them at 5 inches so that so they will work in the spots where we want them to work. So I'm just going to put the straight edge of my border against the shoulder, and I'm going to come in here and cut it at 5 inches. There's a 5 inch and there's a 7 inch. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. There's a 5 inch, and then the remaining one is 7. Okay, so here's the 7 inch and here's the 5 inch. And now we're done with our trimmer. We can set that aside. All right, so flipping back to our first page of our project recipe, we are ready to go ahead and assemble this. Let me grab my base sheet so we can get started here. Okay. And first of all, I'm going to go ahead and just adhere these large pieces, mostly so that I can get them off my tabletop. But I believe this is the way I'm going to set it up. So let's, actually, before we do any adhering, I'm just going to lay it out here so that we can see what I believe it's going to look like. And then that way we can make sure this is what we want, right? Okay, so I've got my base. Those are my two biggest pieces. And then these two pieces are going to go underneath it. I'm going to probably use these two, although maybe this one would be good because it's a little bit more solid. And maybe what we ought to do is put this more solid one on the back. So then this will go underneath here. I think I like that best. The more solid one underneath allows us to see the cut design of this one a little bit better, because the back side of this one is going to be matching this. The back side of our light blue one is going to match this, so I don't want that to match necessarily. I want it to be different, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it just like that. Okay, so knowing that that is going to work the way I'd like it to, I'm going to go ahead and grab my permanent adhesive and get this large block of my designer paper put down. This is going to go in this top corner. Just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this on, put the border on the bottom on with repositionable adhesive, because I want to be able to play with this top part and possibly lift it up if I need to. I probably won't reposition it, but I may need to lift it up so I will need to lift it up so I can add the other designer paper underneath it, these two right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more repositionable adhesive to this, and I'm going to adhere it onto the lighter blue. And the key here is that you make your distance similar for both of these. So I recommend that you keep this out so that you can make these match, okay? So that you can, when you put them down, they'll be at the same height. So I'm just going to scoot them together like this, and then scoot this one, well, hello. If they are moving around like that one was just moving around for me, you might consider just using a little repositionable adhesive on the back of it to make sure that it stays as you are trying to line things up. But this is going to be good, just like this. Okay, so there we've got our mountains. Actually, I think I puckered this just a little, so let me take this off and just adjust it just ever so slightly so that it's straight. There. Perfect. Okay, so this is for our page 2. I'm just going to lay it right over there. And for the time being, I'm going to add some more repositionable tape there, or adhesive there, so that I can slide this underneath the top one. Slide this under. Try to keep your parameters between the mountains roughly the same. It's a little bit difficult in the case of mine just here because my top mountains are facing the opposite direction from my bottom mountains. So that's a little bit tricky to get the spacing exactly right, but it'll work. Okay, so that one's done. Let's go ahead and bring in this other base sheet and get the other side going. So we're just going to grab the permanent adhesive to put down this large block of paper. And again, it goes in the upper left-hand corner. We did the right-hand corner on the other sheet. This one's going to be next to it, so it'll carry that paper across. Then we're going to put down the big sheet, again with some repositionable adhesive. Anytime you're putting down punched paper, I always recommend repositionable adhesive, because sometimes you may have to lift it up and move it. It's so much easier to do with repositionable adhesive. It's not impossible with permanent adhesive, but it's so much easier with repositioning. All right, grabbing my, stuff is falling out. I'm just going to make sure this is lifted up so that I can slide this under. And if you're worried about making sure that it's exactly in the right position, then matching it up with this is a good idea. So before you stick this down, what you can do is bring this sheet over here, put the opposite edges together like this, right? And then you can see where the edges go. And make sure that they are at the same height, just like that. Okay, so here we've got our left page, here we have our right page. You can see how this page in the center really carries everything across. Then we're going to have a mat over here, which can be, I'm going to make it the dark color because I feel like colors pop off dark colors much easier. This one overlaps just a little bit, so it's going to go there. I'm going to use my 12-inch stickers, these that match this paper so perfectly. These are going to go across my mountains, my blue mountains at the bottom. Okay, they're going to go across right underneath the mountains, so I'm just going to start them at the center edge and keep them level as much as possible all the way out to the outer edge. So such a pretty looking flower. I don't know if this is a traditional Nordic flower because I'm not really super well versed in that culture, but it is such a pretty flower, I feel like, for this collection. It's really nice. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this sticker down. Then I'm going to come back up here and put these mats down. Normally I put my mats down with repositionable adhesive, but because this is a project recipe and it's designed to be this way, I'm just going to go ahead and use my permanent adhesive to adhere my mats, and I'll have to work my photos around it. Okay, so these are about 1/4 of an inch from the top of the mountains and just shy of 1/4 of an inch overlapping this center paper right here. At least that's what I'm doing with this 4x4 square right here. Okay, then we need embellishments. We need some embellishments up here, some over here, and some down here. That's where the example has them anyway. And so I'm going to go with that because I think if I try to put anything down here on top of this, it's going to be way too busy. So I'll just set that kind of in the middle. Grab my foam squares because you know I'm going to need them, right? Oh, they're tucked in a safe place over here to the side, which as it turns out is not a safe, it's not a super safe place. All right, so I pulled some of these embellishments thinking they would be perfect for this design. And I think what I want to do is I want one of the lanterns up here, and I want maybe the smaller lantern over here to this side. And then I'm going to use the candles down here. And then I want some greenery behind all of them. So I think she said, I think we're going to kind of add that little tree. I'm going to move this over so that it is sort of touching the background paper right there. I'm going to put this tree up here, a little bit behind that lantern. And this tree is going to go down here, it's just slightly behind the candles, not very much. And then we need just another something. I was thinking maybe the bells would be good for there. Maybe we could add the apple, or the, I think these are lemons. Lemons? Maybe actually the bigger lemon needs to go up here. Or maybe what we'll do, we'll put that lemon just like that. And then I think what I'm going to do is get my scissors and cut this lemon in half. So let's see, where can we cut this in half? Do we have a halfway mark? Kind of right here. So that I can kind of open it up and do half and half, kind of like that. Okay, so I think that's what I'm going to go with because these need to hang from somewhere. And so just this, and I don't really have anywhere for it to hang from. I do like that star, but I think I like the balance that we've got going here. Okay, so let's do some foam squares. So I'm going to pop this one up. Don't you just love the multi-sized foam squares? I just think they're really lovely. And I'm so glad they made them a part of our line, because they just really help. So I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive on the tree. The tree's going to go down first, kind of right there. Then we're going to place the lantern on top, and the lantern's going to overlap just a little onto this paper and onto the tree. Then we're going to use our tiny little foam squares on these lemon wedges. And place those kind of, let's see, I'm gonna go kind of under the lantern. How did I have those before? They looked so cute. Well, we'll just kind of stick that one kind of up a little. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. These two will be on foam squares. This one's going to be flat on the page. So I'm going to place that there. I'm going to get a big foam square for that guy. A smaller foam square for this guy. Again, he's just barely touching the mat here. The photo that goes there will be able to squeeze right underneath, no problem at all. And those are just popped up just a tiny bit. Come here. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. We're gonna, stick that down. Foam squares for the win, as Melissa says. All right. So these will go just a little bit higher, overlapping just a smidge right here and a tiny bit there, and this will go just a little bit lower. You have to know where you're putting your foam square pieces, because once they're there, it's very difficult to take them off. You can sometimes, but you run the risk of tearing things, so just be really careful. All right, so this is our Nordic Winter project recipe. I really like it. You let me know what you think, but I really love all of the colors, the blues, the greens. They all work together so well with this collection. Here again is the other version of this, so a little bit more cabiny, you know, a little more up in the woods kind of. This one is than the other one, but still a similar theme, and a very nice project recipe that will allow you to put at least 6 pictures on here. You've got 2 4x4 slots here. You've got another 3 3/3 by 3 3/4 slot here in order to allow the border around. You've got 2 4x6 slots here, and then you've got this would be 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, or possibly 5.5 by 3.5 would go here. And this you could do 3.5 by 3.5. Depends on how wide you want that border to be that goes around it. All right, let me know what you think in the comments. I always love to hear from you guys, and I hope everything is well with you. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day.